Hello, my name is Lisa Thompson, and I was the chair and author of the Safeguarding Adult Review pertaining to the death of Callum. Callum was a white British male in his mid-40s when he was found deceased at home in his council-owned property. Callum was severely sight impaired and used a cane. Callum was quite distinctive, with piercing eyes, long dreadlocks, which were down to his waist, and several tattoos. He was a well-known figure across Town A where he lived, and he would be seen walking fast and with purpose, wearing a large backpack, cut-off combat trouser-style shorts, and walking boots. Callum was described as softly spoken and often fairly closed off, using one-word answers but rarely ever rude. Callum described himself as a private person. Callum had been diagnosed with anorexia nervosa when he was in his early 20s. This had led to malnutrition, which had caused a deterioration of his eyesight. At the point of his death, Callum was also a prolific hoarder. On the 11th of January 2023, a concern was raised with Kent County Council's Adult Social Care team by a member of the public. She had seen Callum out walking in the evening. Callum was about a mile away from his home. He was walking in the wrong direction for his home and came across as confused. The member of the public took him to his address, and they were concerned about leaving him in case he left the property and became lost again. The concern was passed to the arms team for an assessment. The following day, Callum fell outside a shop in his road, and he was assisted by the shopkeeper. Callum told the ambulance crew that he was feeling unsteady on his legs. He described being lonely and isolated, that he struggled with laundry and caring for himself. Callum was taken to the local hospital emergency department for an assessment. SAR made a vulnerable person alert, which was sent the following day, citing gait abnormalities and describing his dirty, ripped clothes and a strong smell of urine and faeces. Callum was discharged home from hospital on the 24th of February 2023 with a package of care planned. Following his return home, a healthcare assistant from the acute response team attended the home, met with Callum, and explained about the intention to start the care package. Callum declined this support. The duty charge nurse also visited Callum later that afternoon to undertake a needs assessment. After a long time of loud knocking, Callum opened the front door slightly and told the charge nurse that he did not want assistance. An adult social care referral was submitted, and a social worker visited Callum on the 15th of March 2023, along with a paramedic practitioner from Callum's GP practice. After the professionals were knocking for over half an hour, they eventually gained access to the property. Callum was still dressed in the hospital gown he'd been discharged in 3 weeks earlier. The property was very cluttered. There was a strong smell and evidence of rodent activity. Callum stated that he had not eaten for 5 days. An ambulance was called, and the crew assessed Callum as presenting with hypothermia, malnutrition, and self-neglect. He was taken to a hospital out of the area due to the local hospital being on divert. The ambulance crew recorded the clutter rating as 8 out of 10, including photos of his home environment, and made a record that he should not be discharged home before the issue was resolved. Once in the emergency department, Callum was triaged. His clinical observations were taken and documented to be within normal parameters. It is recorded that he smelt foul, with bodily fluid dried up, and his legs were covered with dried faeces. He was assisted to wash and dress in a clean hospital gown. Callum was then seen by the emergency department doctor, and the welfare concerns raised by SAR were noted and documented. Callum was admitted to the clinical decision unit. The doctor suggested hospital admission while support was arranged for Callum. However, Callum declined this. The doctor assessed that Callum had mental capacity to decide to return home. Callum was spoken to again by an advanced practitioner and stated that he had been brought to hospital against his will due to the state of his property because he had not cleaned it. There is no record of this being challenged, and notes made about this discussion do not read as though the hospital were aware of the severity of the hoarding. It was decided that there was no reason to prevent him returning home, and G4S were booked to convey him home the same day. Callum was in the emergency department for a total of 6 hours. The social worker contacted the hospital on the 20th of March and the 22nd of March 2023 and was told by the switchboard that Callum remained in the emergency department. 2 days later, the social worker called and spoke directly to the emergency department, and they advised that Callum had been sent home just a few hours after coming into the emergency department 10 days before. The social worker attended the property on Monday, the 27th of March 2023, and was unable to get an answer. Neighbours confirmed that they had not seen Callum since returning home from hospital 10 days before. The social worker attended again on the 30th of March, along with Kent Fire and Rescue Service, for a planned home safety check. The door was found to be unlocked, and Callum was found deceased in the property. You can read the full report on the Kent and Medway Safeguarding Adult Ward website. However, I will now take you through 2 of the themes that are identified within the review, and will also pause for some reflective questions. Callum's care needs were not known until after he fell over in the street. Until then, Callum and his needs had been invisible to services. However, once he was in hospital and then known to professionals who were able to see the condition of his home, there was a lack of professional curiosity used. For example, there is no evidence that Callum was ever asked by any professionals why he was declining help. There was no consideration for his long-term anorexia condition and how this may have been continuing to impact on his life. Practitioners need to be empowered to ask exploratory questions and not to take matters on face value. Think about a person that you are currently supporting or working with who appears to be making unwise choices. Have you asked them to explain the reason for their choices? The second theme I'm going to speak to you about today is social isolation and loneliness. Callum's sight impairment isolated him. It reduced his connections with the outside world. Communication was not tailored to Callum. For example, he was consistently sent letters which he was unable to read. Agencies should consider the forms of communication that are available, whether these are being utilised fully, and whether other forms of communication could be considered in specific cases. Here are some reflective questions for you. You may want to pause the video and think about each of these. When do you ask individuals about their preferred mode of communication and/or their communication needs? Is there any opportunity to revisit this question regularly? Think about the last time you considered the communication needs of an individual. Was the information about the communication readily available to you and clear to understand? Were you able to communicate with them appropriately? Is there anything else you could have done to assist them with communication? As mentioned, the full report is available on the Kent and Medway Safeguarding Adult Ward website. Thank you for your time.